My partner left without a word after I made a terrible mistake. 2 years later, I discovered he had remarried and his new wife was expecting a baby in another country. The jealousy consumed me. I'm 35 years old, and he's 36. I'm fully aware of my faults. I know I messed up. We had something beautiful, and he remains the love of my life. We spent 10 years together, 2 years dating and 8 years married. But I made a huge mistake and cheated on him. It was just once, just one moment of weakness, yet somehow he found out. I never learned how, as we haven't spoken since that day. I suspect he discovered something on my phone. I came home that afternoon, and everything felt off. The house felt emptier, and it didn't take long for me to realize that his belongings were gone. Panic set in as I called him repeatedly, but his phone didn't even ring. Then I noticed some papers on the table. He was divorcing me. Beneath the divorce papers was a note that read, "This is what you do with cheaters." That was the last communication I received from him, 2 years ago. I reached out to his lawyer, who had been the only link between us, but he informed me that he was merely representing my husband and that my husband didn't want to see me. I fought against this reality, anger boiling within me, but ultimately, his lawyer suggested I find my own representation. I refused to accept that a decade of our relationship could end like this. I know I failed, but I always believed I could fix it. If he gave me a chance, I was certain I could make that sweet, special guy I fell in love with over 10 years ago fall for me again. Many couples face similar challenges and overcome them. Why couldn't we be one of those couples? After 8 years of marriage, I felt discarded like trash for a mistake I didn't believe warranted such indifference. Not being able to see him or hear his voice for 2 years has been an unbearable punishment. This situation has shattered me emotionally, mentally, and even physically. I found myself consuming an unhealthy amount of alcohol, weeks of barely eating, and sleepless nights. I was a zombie for months, merely functioning on autopilot. I wanted to die, but I couldn't let myself go because I clung to the hope that he would return. My therapist explained that it's incredibly difficult to find closure when you can't process the end of a relationship, leading to a constant longing for that person to reappear in your life. The divorce was finalized over a year ago, and I'll admit, I didn't make it easy. I didn't want to be divorced, and I still struggle to understand how we reached this point. I suggested couples therapy, but he refused. I learned from my lawyer that his lawyer had advised him to attend at least once or twice, but he declined. After a long and painful wait, the divorce finally happened. I can't even describe the feeling. It was as if a part of me had been severed. I know I hurt him, and I know I failed, but I believe everyone deserves a second chance. When the pain became unbearable, I decided to seek therapy. My therapist doesn't focus on getting him back. Instead, he encourages me to move on with my life, to meet new people, and to go on dates. But I'm not ready for that. At this point, I'm not even interested in intimacy. A few days ago, something happened that shattered me completely. I was having a few beers with my friend, let's call her Lisa, at my house. We were both quite tipsy, and I began talking about my husband. She told me I needed to put more effort into moving on, that he was happy in living a life without me, and that I should do the same. Her words struck me, but not in the way she intended. She spoke with such confidence about my husband being over me and happy. How could she know that? I felt anger rising within me, and I pressed her for more information. She hesitated but eventually revealed that her husband had been in contact with my husband for the past year. They had become good friends, and I remembered Lisa's husband being upset about losing touch with my husband. The shocking truth hit me. My husband had moved to Norway, married a woman there, and she was about 5 months pregnant. I felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath me. How could he do this to me? While I was drowning in sorrow, drinking to forget, and wishing for death, he was happily starting a new life on the other side of the world, getting married, and welcoming a child. How could it be that we never had a child in all those years together, yet he managed to get someone else pregnant? I had no answers, and the weight of uncertainty felt unbearable. Thoughts are consuming me. I refuse to believe that he is in love with her. I need to reach out to him. I need to understand what's happening because it feels like our 10 years together and 8 years of marriage mean nothing to him now. I'm desperate for advice on how to act. The impulse to travel to him and confront him is overwhelming, but how could I do that? I don't even know what city he's in or where he lives. I don't have a way to contact him. He's closed all his social media accounts, and his family, who live in another country, have blocked me. I feel completely lost. I still want him back, even with his new wife expecting a child. This feels like a nightmare, and I need to wake up. I've read almost all the comments on my previous post. When I say almost all, I mean it. It's hard to process the harsh words directed at me. I feel like people forget that they're talking to a person, not an object. I hope to find some empathy by sharing my story here, but it seems that only a few people have shown me kindness. I'm not looking for validation or for anyone to excuse my actions. I know what I did was wrong, and I have to live with that every day. I'll try to respond to some comments, but I know I won't be able to reply to everyone. I guess none of you truly understand what it's like to have a broken heart and struggle to move on from someone. You don't choose who you love, and you can't dictate when you'll get over someone. It happens when it's meant to. For those who doubt my story, I wish it were fake, but it's not, and I have to deal with this reality every single day. Everyone assumes he's happy now, but how can anyone know? I haven't seen him in 2 years, so I have no idea if he's truly happier or not. Just because his wife is pregnant doesn't guarantee happiness or fulfillment in their marriage. We don't know the circumstances surrounding their relationship. Perhaps he married her because she became pregnant, and he felt isolated in a foreign country where he had no support. I blame myself for this. If I had been a better partner, none of this would have happened. But I can't change the past. The only thing I can do is try to make amends, but how do you make amends to someone who doesn't want to give you the chance? Some people have said he doesn't owe me a second chance, and that was hard to read, but I understand that he may not feel obligated to. During our marriage, we both underwent fertility testing, and while the results showed we were physically capable of having children, we faced unexplained infertility. Sometimes, these things happen without any clear medical reason. Now, he's starting a family with someone else, and it's devastating. Horrible things have been said, like I would hurt him if he were here. I have never physically harmed him, nor would I ever. I'm not an abusive person. I'm not a monster. I know it's difficult to empathize with me, and I acknowledge that I made a grave mistake. I know I hurt him deeply, but I am not a monster or a narcissist. Some have claimed that if I truly loved him, I wouldn't have cheated. That statement feels unfair. You can't dictate what love is or how it manifests in someone's heart. You can't know my feelings unless you're inside my head or heart. Not a day has gone by since he left that I haven't regretted my actions. No one can tell me that I don't love him. Lastly, humans are more complex than many here seem to think. Just because I made a mistake doesn't mean I don't love him or that I lack feelings. I refer to my actions as a mistake because that's what it was. I thought part of accepting blame was acknowledging that it was my fault, but it seems everyone interprets my words as an attempt to twist the situation, which isn't my intention. I know how much I hurt him. My husband originally came from another country but built his life here with me for years. After our split, he left everything behind: his life, his friends, even his job. No one does that without experiencing profound pain. I can see and feel the hurt I caused him, and that guilt weighs heavily on me. I plan to respond to some comments below and then take a break for a few days until I feel more grounded. One commenter asked who I cheated with, and that's important information. It was a random guy from the gym, nothing significant. It didn't mean anything, not even for a moment. I was just being foolish. Another commenter suggested I don't seem to have remorse for my actions, pointing out that I didn't plan to tell him. His new wife is pregnant, and it feels as if he has completely forgotten about me. Here I am, sitting alone, crying while sipping wine and responding to strangers about our relationship. I still love him, but it seems so easy for him to move on. One commenter mentioned that if only half the people had the self-respect my ex-husband has, things might be different. I understand the pain I caused him, but I also believe many couples go through similar situations and manage to move on, especially when it was just one mistake. I never had a long-term affair. I didn't cheat on him with multiple men or get pregnant by someone else. Cheating is wrong, but can we really compare my situation to someone who has been unfaithful for years or who cheated with a close relative? I'm not trying to excuse my actions, but I'm asking for some consistency in judgment. These days have been strange. At times, I feel numb, and at others, I feel desperate. A lot has happened recently. I want to start by addressing a question that's been raised: why Norway? I don't know for sure, but he has always been fascinated by different cultures and languages. He speaks 6 languages, and Norwegian is just one of them. He has visited Norway before, but he's also interested in many other cultures, so I never thought it was a sign that he would move there. Regarding the update, my post reached some people in my circle. Sabrina's sister recognized my story and informed her. Sabrina is furious with Nicole for revealing information, while Nicole is upset with me for posting and claims I pressured her to talk. I'm angry with both of them for being unsupportive while I suffered for 2 years. They didn't care about my marriage, so why should I care about their feelings? Sabrina could have given me my ex-husband's contact information long ago, but she chose to prioritize her friendship with him over helping me mend my marriage. I've been thinking a lot about my ex-husband. He can't just disappear from my life. I convinced myself that if I searched hard enough, I could find something related to him. I followed some of his relatives from a fake Instagram account, but I didn't find anything useful. After extensive searching, I came across a name that I had seen before but hadn't paid much attention to. It belonged to a man with an unusual name that isn't common in the United States or my husband's home country. He's not American and has a very distinctive last name. I went to his Instagram profile, but it was bare, no pictures, just a small profile picture that was hard to see. I decided to look him up on Facebook and found the same man with the same profile picture, but his Facebook profile was quite open. He is indeed from Norway. I checked everything I could on this profile, convinced it had something to do with my husband. How else would a relative of his be friends with this man? I saw many pictures of people enjoying nature, plants, mountains, gardens, lakes, flowers, typical posts from an older man. Then I stumbled upon a picture that made my heart drop. My ex was dressed as a groom, hugging a woman. I had to translate the text, which congratulated the man on his daughter's wedding. There were a few more pictures, not many, but I recognized some members of my ex's family in the wedding photos. The dates on the pictures were from a year ago. A year ago, he married this woman. I can't comprehend how this could have happened so quickly. When did he meet her? I honestly thought he would have married her after she got pregnant, not before. This revelation baffles me even more. After that, I found another picture, a group shot where he was in the background, but I recognized him immediately. The same woman was there, her hands on his shoulders, hugging him. This picture was from February 2023. To clarify, he left in May 2022. How is it possible that he is in a stable relationship just 9 months later, and he's already introduced her to his family? What on earth is going on? I know I shouldn't be upset, but I am. I know I lost him because of my foolishness, but it's hard to shake this feeling. For those who imagine my ex as with some glamorous Norwegian beauty, let me clarify, it's not like that. This woman is tall, blonde, and pale, with thin hair, and honestly, she looks more like a cartoon Viking maiden than a Hollywood star. I managed to find her Facebook profile, but there's almost nothing on it. She describes herself as an engineer who wears metal band t-shirts at 38. I'm not sure how to process this because I'm an engineer too, just in a different field. Why would he seek out a woman with the same profession as me? My husband has always had a fondness for heavy metal music, which I never particularly liked, but I never complained. After all, your partner doesn't have to share your musical tastes. I mention this because it might explain how they connected. He always found it easy to bond with people who enjoyed the same type of music. But honestly, I can't help but wonder where he found this woman. He could definitely do better than this. The pregnancy aspect still messes with my mind. I try not to dwell on it, but it's hard to understand. I'm not infertile, as some comments have suggested. I've been to the doctor and know I'm capable of having children. Yet, it pains me to think that she will have his child. I feel like this situation is beyond anything I ever imagined. I've decided I'm not going to Norway, nor will I attempt to contact him. I still want to see him and talk to him, but I can't force him to engage with me. I have too much to deal with right now and a lot to discuss in therapy. Final update: it's been 3 months since my last post, and many of you have reached out to ask how I'm doing. I felt I owed an explanation to those who supported me through this difficult time. First, I need to address the fertility issue that many of you pointed out. During our marriage, both my ex and I underwent testing, and the doctor told us we were both physically capable of having children. However, for some unexplained reason, we couldn't conceive after years of trying. They labeled it as unexplained infertility, a frustrating diagnosis that offers no real answers. Looking back, I realized that the stress in our relationship might have played a role. My therapist explained that psychological factors can significantly impact fertility, which makes sense now. I finally got the closure I needed after discovering his new life in Norway. I was in a terrible state, and my therapist suggested I write him a letter, not to send, but for my own healing. Somehow, Sabrina found out and contacted me. She admitted feeling guilty for keeping information from me and offered to deliver a letter to him if I wanted. I was shocked but grateful. I wrote him a letter acknowledging my mistake, expressing genuine remorse, and congratulating him on his new family. I didn't ask for reconciliation or make excuses, I simply wanted him to know how sorry I was and that I wished him happiness. 2 weeks later, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. It was from him. He wrote that he had received my letter and appreciated my apology. He explained that he left so abruptly because he couldn't bear to see me after what happened. The betrayal was too painful, and he feared that facing me would lead to saying hurtful things he would regret. He revealed something I never knew: he had caught me texting the guy from the gym weeks before he left. He monitored my phone, saw me delete messages, and eventually witnessed me with this man. The affair wasn't just a one-time mistake, as I had convinced myself. I had been emotionally involved for weeks, something I had buried in my memory. Regarding their fertility, he explained that his new wife had also struggled with fertility issues in a previous relationship. They weren't actively trying to have a baby, but she became pregnant unexpectedly. Their doctor suggested that sometimes compatibility between partners plays a role in fertility. Some couples simply have better reproductive compatibility than others. He wasn't trying to hurt me with this information, he was just answering the unasked question I had in my mind. They met at a heavy metal concert in Norway 3 months after he left. She helped him through his darkest days, and their shared interests in engineering, music, and Norwegian culture brought them together. What I saw as too fast was actually a case of two people finding each other when they needed it most. His email was kind but firm. He asked me not to contact him again and to move forward with my life just as he had with his. He forgave me but made it clear that our chapter was closed permanently. This email, painful as it was, finally gave me the closure I needed. The reality I had constructed in my head about our relationship wasn't accurate. I had minimized my betrayal and maximized my victimhood. Since then, I've committed fully to therapy and started dating again. Nothing serious, but I'm opening myself to new possibilities. I deleted my fake Instagram account and stopped monitoring his family's social media. I've rekindled old friendships and made new ones. I still think about him sometimes, but not with the desperate longing I once felt. Now, I think of him with gratitude for the years we shared and the lessons I learned.